Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Late Winner Show. Today, we are here to talk about Aston Villa and their new appointment in the name of Steven Gerrard. He's back. He's back in the Premier League. Maybe he will not do those slips anymore. Coming back into the Premier League. But I have Colin from the 𝗕𝗲𝗹𝗹 podcast and Brian from the Rangers 𝗕𝗲𝗹𝗵 podcast. How you guys doing?
Very well, thank you.
I'm good, Richard. Thanks very much for having me on.
Yeah.
Before we go forward, do you guys mind just introducing a little bit about yourselves and your podcast as well?
On you go, Paul.
Yeah, so I'm the host of the 𝗕𝗲𝗹𝗹 podcast. It's just Rangers fans podcast. It's not very insightful. It's just really 3 or 4 pals talking nonsense every week about what's going on at Rangers. It started through the lockdown when we were bored, wanted to get our Rangers fix, and just over a year later, here we are, still going on. So yeah, you can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. I don't know, the tech guys put it up, whatever. We're in several places if you want to find us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at the Rangers 𝗕𝗲𝗹𝗵, I think it's our first birthday today. We started a year ago. Well, not myself, but Martin on the 𝗕𝗲𝗹𝗵, and yeah, we're on the usual Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and we have 2 or 3 shows a week. Couple of live ones, match reactions, not quite after the match, but near enough. And we're growing all the time, and it's just it's great fun to be involved in. As you said, Colin, it's just a bunch of guys that like to talk about their club, and that's all it is.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to be on the Rangers 𝗕𝗲𝗹 as well. Martin invited me on last year, and it is brilliant. It's just so natural. And happy birthday to the Rangers 𝗕𝗲𝗹𝗵 podcast.
No, I mean, I've been, before we actually did this podcast, I did kind of some kind of research on Rangers as well, and both of your podcasts actually provide a lot more information, and I've actually definitely subscribed to your podcast as well to listen more on Rangers, because as I'm a football fanatic, I would like to know more about like what's happening around the globe, and you guys do a great job on explaining all the stuff that has been going in and around Rangers. But yeah, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Late Winner Show as well. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and all the links are in the description below. For the Rangers 𝗕𝗲𝗹𝗵, for the 𝗕𝗲𝗹𝗵 podcast, all the links are mentioned in the description below. So yeah, but let's get the show started and talk about Aston Villa and Steven Gerrard. I guess the first question obviously comes to my mind is Steven Gerrard came about 23 months ago at Rangers, and to be very honest, I've been following what he's been doing there, but I never expected the way that the way he's actually transformed that team into this really, really great team where all these youngsters have been coming up, and he's tried to and he figured out a lot of like captaincy issues that the Rangers were having at that time. How do you guys now feel about Steven Gerrard leaving, and now what next for Rangers?
I think it's, Ryan, you'll probably agree, it's a very emotional time on Rangers Twitter right now. It's, I don't know, I myself, if I'm being completely honest, I'm kind of going through the motions where I'm calm about it. I can understand it. Then it's a little bit of a sour taste, and I'm back to looking forward. I think when we look back in 10 years' time to what Steven Gerrard done for Rangers and the team he's left, as opposed to the team he inherited 3.5 years ago, it'll look very kind on him, and it'll show the job he's done. But I think, I don't know about yourself, Brian, I think the biggest thing that's sticking in the back of the throat right now is just the timing of leaving.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Colin, we've been through an emotional few years, probably in the last 10 years, ever since 2012, and we've been led down so many sort of paths where we thought we were going to be on a better track to things, and it turned out to be the exact opposite. So, we've been let down that many times. And then, of course, when Gerrard came in, there was an excitement, there was a buzz, and the growth that he did, you could see season after season. Yeah, we weren't getting near in the league, but you could see the progression, you could see the players, you could see the formations and how we were playing. And yeah, as a fan, if you can see progression, you don't mind that. And then last season, well, it all culminated, and yeah, it was a fantastic year.
Yeah. Gerrard leaves as a champion after winning Rangers' first league title in 10 years. A huge achievement considering the mess, he inherited. Stadium and the training ground had become, had become dilapidated through the lack of investment, and squad needed a clear out following that 5-0 loss to Celtic in the league and a turbulent 4-0 loss to Hampden. The season for you guys ended with a 5-all draw away to Hibernian. He arrived with a list of the things that wanted to be upgraded within the club. Those familiar with him say that he brought Premier League standards to Rangers. The canteen was transformed, mobile phones were not allowed, and a long list of tables joined together so that there was a sense of groupism within that Rangers team. There's a lot of live cooking stations were improved and reconfigured. An analysis room was even built onto the first team changing room to encourage an open door policy for players. I just wanted to know what it's like to play for Steven Gerrard and what these Aston Villa players will be getting from Steven Gerrard.
I think everything you mentioned there, then I do need to see the first couple of memories that you brought up. I'm going to cry myself to sleep thinking back to that 5-each draw with Hibs, and so thank you for bringing that up. But everything else said, you mentioned Premier League standards, and it will be Premier League standards for the most part, but we would probably describe it as Rangers standards. Like, we see ourselves as like the elite in Scotland. We are the biggest club in Scotland, and I know the league we play in isn't the most glamorous, but we've been brought up in success, and that second isn't good enough. And I think we've seen that as Steven Gerrard, not just Steven Gerrard, I should say. Dave King, the board members, Ross Wilson, so many played a part in it, and we've seen this big transformation getting back to the Rangers that we knew. And as Brian was saying, that wasn't the Rangers we've seen for 10 years time, for 10 years or so. And I think when Dave King first announced the decision why he brought in Steven Gerrard, it was looking at his background, his pedigree, his winning mentality. And I think you've seen that in the footballing side, and going back to what Brian was saying, that transformation year on year. So I think that's it. Playing under Steven Gerrard, you need to recognise second isn't good enough. It's not good enough to go out and give 60-70%. Giving 100% is an absolute minimum under Steven Gerrard.
Yeah. As I said, as you said there, Colin, the standards when he came in was not very good. The squad wasn't very good, and from what he inherited to what he leaves is, well, you can't deny it. It's light years from what we were. The signings all 75-80% work, Colin, roughly.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
And that's a good ratio, a really good ratio.
Yeah, that's a good ratio for especially a rookie manager, because he had virtually no experience before he came to Rangers. He was managing under 18 team at Liverpool. So for a guy to come in with no experience and stamp his authority on the Scottish game like he did, and he carried himself very well in the press. There's a few times in the press where they try to ask him certain questions and silly questions, and he just wasn't having it. And that was good to see. It was just, he was rebuffing any stupid questions, and as you said, Colin, he just brought big standards to us. Well, standards that we always expected, but they were lost, and it was almost like this is the standards that we were used to before, and we were getting back there.
Do you think that, the people keep mentioning about this, obviously, no, and nobody can take it away from him that, he went unbeaten last season, and that's an exceptional achievement for Rangers and for him, given that he did not really have any managerial experience before this, right? To come into the Scottish game, and we all know, like, Scottish game is not the Premier League. He's not going to go unbeaten with Aston Villa throughout the season. That's for sure. Uh, but you also feel that that's something that should be taken into account, that how much Celtic, their main rivals, were actually struggling within the league. Uh, Rangers were the main dominant force in the Scottish league for the last couple of years, and like since Brendan Rodgers has left there. But do you feel like if there was some kind of competition, if he was given that that competition in the league itself to push through, he would have succumbed through that pressure and maybe not actually delivered those things? Just because I feel like, yeah, that's one of the things that people don't talk about.
I think so. For anybody to compete with Rangers last season, they're going to have to. So Celtic, for example, they would have to have matched their best season ever to get anywhere near Rangers last season. It was nice to see Celtic kind of self-explode, but I think I don't know. For me, I think it was all Rangers. I don't think you can take that away from them at all. And if you look at the journey over the last 3-4 years, Celtic should have been light years ahead. Celtic should have been 10-15 years ahead of Rangers. And it wasn't. I know Brendan Rodgers left, but it was still very much the same squad, the same nucleus of players. So I might be a little bit biased, but I don't really think you can take much away from Rangers for last year.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about this quite a lot since obviously the unbeaten season, and I think, as Colin says, the way the season went, it was just a relentless season. They didn't accept winning 1-0. If they got 1 goal, they wanted 2. If they got 2, they got 3. If they got, it was just, and teams just couldn't cope with the pressure. They couldn't cope with the high press of the fullbacks. It was just they smothered teams, and they just couldn't. No team could get near them. And yeah, it's easy to say if Celtic were a decent team and they might have challenged, but I just don't think so. I just think that season, the writing was on the wall. We just smothered teams. And, well, when you only concede 13 goals in a season, if you don't win a league, there's something far wrong.
I actually, I know, like, you guys are Rangers fans, and you guys don't have a lot of opinions on Villa, but just to touch on a little bit on Aston Villa as well, like no major trophy for 25 years, no top 10 Premier League finish for a decade. A quarter of the season has already been gone, just 2 points above the relegation zone. A tough fixture list is on the horizon, and there's going to be just huge expectations. And with talking about their previous manager, Dean Smith, he's taken this team to this level, but obviously their run of 5 consecutive defeats obviously made sure that he was going to be sacked. There's just because of the investment that they have done in the summer transfer window, they expected a lot more things than what they achieved in the previous season. The pressure on Steven Gerrard to deliver in this new role after leaving Rangers, in the hope of transforming Aston Villa into a top team, into a top half team in the Premier League again. What do you think in terms of, like, Steven Gerrard? What does he need to fix in this particular Villa team? I know that you guys already mentioned that they're already struggling, but what do you think, like, in terms just in a high level overview, if we can do like, what do you think that he needs to fix in Aston Villa at the moment?
I think just going on how it played out with Rangers, I think first of all, Steven Gerrard's not going to take this job if he's not got certain assurances that he'll get the backing or the support to carry out that vision, whatever that is, whether that's top 10 within the first full season or pushing for Europe. So I think he's credit where credit's due. He's a clever man that way, and I think I don't think he takes any job without getting those assurances. I think I don't know, just all the kind of non-tangibles that we've been speaking about, just the steel, the determination, and I know it's probably not popular to say right now in the current Rangers climate, but he is very inspiring for the support and for players. If you think about Aston Villa, are a fairly big club in the terms of English Premier League and a fairly big fan base. Steven Gerrard's an English hero, an English footballing hero. Even I'm sure yourself as a Man U fan, you can appreciate how iconic he is. So
Yes,
that inspiration comes in straight away, and we found that with Rangers that okay, like we know he's a force to someone that we listen to straight away. He has that buy-in. He doesn't have to go and prove himself to the fans or the players, which will buy him a couple of months at least, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think his first port of call is obviously going to be to stop that leaky defence, because it's just leaking goals left, right, and centre. And I think that's one of the first things he did at Rangers. He signed Al McGregor, who was a great goalkeeper for us back in the day, and then he signed 𝗕𝗲𝗓 for $3.5 million. He already had 𝗕𝗲𝗓 at the club, and then a couple of years later he signed 𝗕𝗲𝗓𝗏, and there's not been a consistent sort of centre half along with Goldson. It's been 𝗲𝗓𝗪, it's been Balogun, it's been 𝗵𝗏𝗏. So we've mixed up the second centre half a little bit, but I mean, as you said there, Richard, with the fixtures that Villa are facing, it's Gerrard's going to have to struggle on till the 1st of January before he can even think about signing anybody. And I think, personally, I think that's going to be his biggest problem, is getting to January within touch and distance of like safety.
Yeah, I think you're right on that, because there's been only 2 clean sheets in 11 league games. They need to find a way to stop conceding goals, particularly very early in the matches. The last 3 outings against Arsenal, West Ham, and Southampton, they have gone behind after 23 minutes, 7-3. That definitely needs to change, because I feel like, Villa were so good defensively last season, and I just feel like they've forgotten how to defend. It's not like the players have changed at the back. I think Tyrone Mings and 𝗕𝗏𝗏, Matty Cash, all these players are really good. I feel like, and maybe you guys can definitely point out on this fact, but would Villa actually benefit from playing with the recognized style? Rangers certainly did when when Gerrard actually used a 4-3-2-1 formation, but with the wingers playing, basically this is like a 4-3-3, right? But especially when they play in Europe, obviously Villa are not playing in Europe, but if Villa actually adopt that system, there would be greater emphasis placed on the fullbacks of getting forward. As James Tavernier and Borna Borisic actually did so for Gerrard. Matty Cash would actually benefit from that, as I've just mentioned, and with the right support around him, Target could actually affect that too. One thing I really did some research on was like how Gerrard actually influenced the youngsters in Rangers. Villa have actually an abundance of talent coming through. They have having won the FA Youth Cup in May, with Kyan Kessler performing well on low at League 2 in Swindon. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly, but 𝗕𝗲𝗏𝗏 and Cameron Archer and Jadon Philogene-Bidens, they're all still in the building. Gerrard will get a closer look at these rising stars, determine where they and how can they be integrated within the team. I've actually had a really good look during the preseason games of Aston Villa at Jadon Philogene-Bidens, and I feel like he's that next superstar emerging in this footballing world. At Rangers, he did try to push on Ross McCrory and Glenn Middleton during his first season, if I'm not wrong, and but they were eventually phased out. Nathan Patterson was also a player that supporters at Ibrox wanted to see a bit more, but he has had to bide with this time. So I feel like these are some of the things that maybe Gerrard has to focus on, particularly as Brian mentioned, defense. That's one thing that every new manager who comes into a team has to look at the defense. If that can be fixed, then other things automatically start getting into the system and automatically get flowing into their game. Yeah,
I think so, Colin. I mean, we've had it for managers throughout Rangers history. Well, as soon as he arrived at the club and he signed England captain Terry Butcher and he signed Chris Woods, he started from the back. He always said if you can get a good defence at the back, then, as you said, the attack will take care of itself. But as I said before, I think Gerrard's got a very tough job in his hands, and it's if he thinks taking Aston Villa job to get to the holy grail of the Liverpool job's an easy route, then I'm not so sure.
But to be fair, if he does turn it around, then it's
aye.
It's another thing in the CV. I think just on the point about building a solid defence, I think Rangers, some of their best performances over the last couple of years have been in Europe, where we've invited pressure on and been able to hit teams in the break. And I think with Aston Villa, it's a team who, but I think in England in general, it's a bit more. There's a lot more encouragement for teams to have a go, especially at home. So I think if he can sort out that defence, that really moulds into the style that he loves playing, inviting pressure and hitting quickly with quick players.
I think as well the big difference that we noticed at Rangers was the fitness of the players. Our fitness when he first came in, you could see guys blowing out their backsides after about an hour or 70 minutes, Colin, and you could see it was obvious. And then year by year, when Gerrard's got in and got the fitness guys involved, I mean, we're still going at 85, 90 minutes and still hunting teams down and still trying to win the ball back. I think that was the biggest thing I seen with Gerrard's arrival, definitely.
Yeah. One final question for you guys on Villa. Like, do you think that this is a good appointment from Aston Villa? We all know that his long-term goal to manage Liverpool, right, is to manage Liverpool. Do you think that this is the right step in this direction?
I'm going to put my neck in the line from an Aston Villa point of view. I think it makes sense. I think in England now, it's in world football in general, you're getting less and less managers who are likely to be at a club for 5, 6, 7 years, and I think everybody's realistic when appointing a manager. It's a certain cycle that the club's going through. So Dean Smith was part of this cycle to get Aston Villa back into the Premier League, get them settled for a bit. So Aston Villa need the next manager to maybe take them to top 10 or maybe on the verge of Europe. I think if he can get through this first season, I think he's got a good enough relationship with, I forget his name, but the
𝗕𝗲𝗪.
Yeah,
Christian 𝗕𝗲𝗪.
Yeah, but I think next season's when you'd really see the benefit of Gerrard and his team. So I think if he can get through mainly the next 2, 3, 4 months, or maybe the next 2, 3 months, then I think it'll work out a good appointment for Villa.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it's, as you said, Colin, if you take your emotional hat off and just see it as it is, he's been, he's been very good at Rangers. He's improved us from where we were. For Villa want, it's a good appointment. Will it work? That's the next question. As you say, Colin, he's got to get through this November, December period and try and keep in touch with the relegation battle. And if he can even get within a handful of points, get some guys in January. Thing is as well, this isn't going to work overnight. This is going to be a 2 or 3, a 1 or 2 season sort of project. Yeah, we were kind of expecting Gerrard to lift the trees up, but it took a while. But we could see the progression. We accepted that we were getting better year on year. It's whether Villa's going to accept that sort of slow progression.
So I'm thinking, if I have a Rangers fan on the podcast, why not ask this? But what next for Rangers? Like, who is the next managerial appointment that you guys are looking at?
I'll let you take this, Colin.
Nah, we were just talking off air before we got going. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is the name trending in Glasgow right now, and I'll be completely honest, when this first got suggested or rumoured, I thought it was just a lazy rumour, because any time any club is looking for a manager, the big rumours are always, okay, which ex-player is in management? And obviously Van Bronckhorst played for Rangers under Advocaat. the more I'm hearing about Van Bronckhorst, the more I'm starting to listen to the reasoning, rationale. I think he slots in really well with this Rangers side in terms of the style of football he's been used to playing. And just similar to talk about Steven Gerrard, and you made the point off there that in a game that shows your medals, Van Bronckhorst does very well. So he's got that respect straight away. He doesn't need to buy in from the fans or the players, and I think it's a massive head start for any appointment in any job.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at 𝗕𝗲𝗓𝗏 van Bronckhorst, the player, European Cup, Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League, and then you go into his managerial, he's won 2 Dutch Cups, he's won the Dutch League with Feyenoord, who, let's be honest, managed to wrestle the title away from Ajax and PSV, which is no mean feat. But yeah, he plays a similar style to Gerrard, and it's been the rumor. If you look at Rangers Twitter over the last week or so, it's just been pretty mental. But it's exciting as well because it's the new manager sort of buzz. But as Colin said there, when you dig deeper and you look at Giovanni Van Bronckhorst as a manager, it makes sense. He's got more credentials than Gerrard ever had. So it's all pointing to good, and we're hoping the next day or so we're going to hear some news.
I can't echo that point more about Brian saying it's been mental, and that sums up the Rangers fans base as a whole. We're crazy at times, and we're a very unforgiving fan base at times as well. But there's been even occasions folk have been looking on the Flight Radar app to see what flights are coming in and out of Glasgow from where, and there's been a flight come in from Amsterdam, so Twitter's went chaotic.
Yeah, as somebody said on Twitter, I think the MI5 are getting worried because flight radars are getting looked at from Amsterdam to Glasgow, and they must be thinking what's happening. But that's just the Rangers fans. They just want the best for their club, and we're a mental bunch, but we're just passionate.
Yeah.
I think that's great, but having you guys on the pod and telling us more about like how Steven Gerrard usually used to operate and what Aston Villa can expect from this. Thank you so much, Brian and Colin, to come on the channel and share your thoughts on that.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us.
Aye, thanks very much.
That being said, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Late Winner Show. Follow us, give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter. Obviously helps us with the likes that you give us on YouTube. Definitely helps us with that algorithm that's working with YouTube. Keep hitting those likes, keep hitting those subscribe buttons as well. I've left all the links in the descriptions below to Brian's podcast, to Colin's podcast, Gallant Few, and the Rangers Rabble. Give it a follow as well if you're really interested into Rangers, more in Rangers information over there. But I'd like to leave it there. But again, Colin and Brian, thank you so much, and good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.